Hey guys, Stephanie with AmericanMuscle.com here with the Injen Intercooler for 2015 and up EcoBoost Mustangs. The EcoBoost is a completely different animal in the Mustang world, and so that means different types of mods, and one of the first places that people tend to move towards when they start modifying is, of course, the turbo. The turbo functions great from factory, but if you're looking for performance, then the turbo and its setup have a lot more to give, and the front mount intercooler is an important piece to the turbo puzzle. The front mount from Injen is going to be best suited for someone that's looking for the largest drop-in upgrade that will still work with the factory piping. The whole purpose of an intercooler is to increase performance, and it does it through lowering the temperature of the incoming air that's compressed by the turbo. It forces cool air into the cylinder, so basically we're looking at cooler intake air temps thanks to the intercooler. This makes it a good mod for stock cars that are worried about heat soak or modified cars that need some more cooling capability. The factory intercooler can only cool so much air. It's limited by its size, so when you start playing around with the EcoBoost and running more boost and bolting on some mods, then you're looking at maxing out your factory unit and needing to upgrade. That being said, I wouldn't really peg a front mount as the best first performance upgrade, but it works best when you've already done some work and you want to make sure that your power potential isn't limited by your cooling setup. But like I just mentioned, depending on what area you're living in and if your car's a daily or not, you could be having heat soak issues that are killing some of your performance, and so in that case, upgrading the intercooler is also a good idea. Just how much better of a cooling job an intercooler is capable of comes down to its size. This intercooler here is currently the largest available on the site, and so naturally it's going to have the most cooling and supporting power potential. Dyno testing shows this unit as having an average performance of a 50-degree drop in intake air temps, which quite honestly is pretty large. It's almost 20 degrees more than any of its competitors, but you can see how large this thing is, so it has the size to back that number up. This is an all the way around bigger intercooler than the factory one. The core is twice as large as the factory core, but it's still going to work with the factory piping. This actually has two benefits, which I'll explain in a second, and it's still going to be a drop-in replacement. These are two very nice qualities because it means you don't have to spend money on upgrading your piping, and you don't have to worry about modifying anything to get this installed, and the larger core means that you have a larger cooling surface, hence the greater cooling capability. One thing to start thinking about when you start upgrading your setup around your turbo is things like pressure drop and turbo lag. So sometimes bigger isn't always better depending on your setup and what all you've got going on with it. I will say that this is the largest intercooler upgrade on the site at the moment, but you aren't looking at a big pressure drop by upgrading to this unit. The pressure drop is retained within 0.5 psi of the stock unit, which is great news for those of you that are concerned with your low-end power bands. The ability of this front mount to do that probably has to do with the fact that you're still using the factory piping, so that's the second benefit of keeping that piping. And one other thing that I wanted to hit on when it comes to the factory piping is to keep in mind that these are speed density cars, not MAF cars, so you don't have to worry about needing a larger MAF housing or maxing out a housing since there's nothing to max out in this case. When it comes to some specifics, this of course is TIG welded and it's made from 6061 aluminum. The aluminum is going to dissipate heat faster, which is why it's used for intercoolers, and the end tanks here are cast. This guy's also got an in-tank diverter to divert and improve airflow. Injen rates this piece as being capable of supporting up to 550 horsepower, which does make it a good unit to grow into. You don't necessarily need to have 500 horsepower to use this, but if you plan on doing any future mods, you have an idea of what this intercooler is good till. As far as price, this intercooler is going to run you about $630 since everything for the S550 seems to cost an arm and a leg. But really though, this is the most expensive intercooler option on the site because it's the largest with the most cooling power and the ability to support the most horsepower. So I wouldn't call the install for an intercooler on an S550 particularly difficult. It's going to take around 2 hours and it's going to be a 1 out of 3 wrenches in the difficulty meter. You're looking at needing a handful of tools, and a lift is going to be your best friend in this case. Getting the car up high enough to work under the front end will make things go faster. You'll be pulling the intercooler out from below the car, and you do have to pop off the front bumper cover, the grills, and pull the bottom dust cover off, but this is all really easy stuff. And Injen gives you new hardware for this intercooler, so you won't need to reuse your stock stuff. Like I said earlier, this is a direct drop-in upgrade, so it's going to install the same way the factory one came out. Wrapping things up here, the Injen Intercooler is currently the largest available drop-in front mount upgrade for the EcoBoost Mustang. Works with the factory piping, it doesn't cause a large drop in pressure over the factory unit, and on average it drops intake air temps a big 50 degrees. It scores twice as large as the factory intercooler, and I suggest you check it out more online right here at AmericanMuscle.com.